If a guy is doing these 8 things, he's already obsessing over you and you don't even realize it. And I'm going to tell you why everything you think about a guy wanting you is totally wrong. Here's what's going to blow your mind. When a guy really wants you, like seriously can't stop thinking about you, he doesn't get more confident. He doesn't suddenly become smooth. He doesn't turn into some perfect guy. He gets weird, kind of all over the place. Sometimes he'll even seem nervous around you, not because he doesn't know if he likes you, but because he wants you so bad it's throwing him off. Let me tell you something that nobody ever talks about when it comes to guys wanting you. The guy who's really obsessing isn't doing the obvious stuff. He's not being super flirty. He's not trying to impress you with fancy dates. He's not making everything clear and easy to read. Instead, he's doing these strange little things that don't make sense until you understand what's going on in his brain. Tiny stuff he has no clue he's even doing. Stuff that shows you've gotten in his head in a way that's changing how he acts. Most women figure when a guy really wants them, he'll just show it clearly. He'll chase more, try harder, be predictable. But here's what I've learned from actually watching how guys behave. The guys who are developing real want, the kind that matters, they don't act like that. They get confused. They do things that seem backwards. They send mixed signals, not because they're playing games, but because they're honestly confused about what's happening to them. Think about when guys talk about realizing they wanted someone bad. They never say, I chose to pursue her more. They say things like, I had no idea what was happening, or she just stuck in my head, or I couldn't stop thinking about her and it was annoying me. Because guys don't start wanting women the way you think. It's not something they decide. It happens to them, and when it does, they act different. The 8 signs I'm about to break down aren't what you've been told to look for. They're not romantic. They're not going to make you feel warm and fuzzy. Some might actually make you think he's losing interest, but they're the real signs, the true ones, the ones that show what's really going on in his head when he's starting to obsess way before he'll ever say it. So if you're confused about whether this guy wants you, if what he's doing doesn't match what you expected, if one day he seems all in and the next day he's acting strange, you're about to get your answer. These 8 signs aren't about what comes out of his mouth or what he's trying to make you see. They're about what he can't control when you're becoming a bigger deal to him than he was ready for. Before we get into the 8 signs, let's talk about what it actually looks like when a guy starts obsessing over someone, because this is where most women get it completely wrong. Obsessing over someone isn't the same as just thinking they're hot or even liking them. It's way deeper. It's when you go from being someone he enjoys talking to someone who's taking up space in his brain, someone he thinks about when he's supposed to be doing other stuff, someone who's starting to matter in a way that changes everything. Guys are pretty good at handling attraction. They know what to do with it. They can flirt, they can ask you out, they can keep things casual, but obsessing over someone, that's different. That's not something they can plan or control. It just happens. And when it does, it throws off their normal way of acting in ways they don't even notice. Most guys won't even say they're obsessing over someone until way after it's already been happening. They'll tell their friends it's nothing serious. They'll convince themselves they're just hanging out. Because admitting you're obsessing means admitting someone has this power over you now. It means admitting you actually care what happens. And guys hate feeling that exposed until they're totally sure it's worth it. So the signs we're looking for aren't about what a guy decides to do. They're about what he can't help doing. The stuff that slips out even when he's trying to play it cool. The behaviors that show what's really happening underneath whatever act he's putting on. These are the signs that separate guys who just think you're cute from guys who are actually obsessing, even if they haven't figured it out themselves yet. The first sign that a guy is obsessing over you that nobody ever mentions is he gets kind of awkward around you, not smoother. Every dating tip tells you that if a guy wants you, he'll be confident, charming, know exactly what to say. But here's what actually happens in real life. When a guy starts really wanting you, he gets a little awkward. Not in a bad way, not like he can't function, but in this specific way where he second guesses himself, stumbles over words sometimes, doesn't always know how to act around you. Here's what's going on in his head that he'd never say out loud when you're just someone he thinks is attractive. Being around you is easy. He can joke around, say whatever comes to mind, not rah. really care how it lands. But when you start becoming someone he actually wants, someone whose opinion matters to him, his brain starts doing this thing where it overthinks everything. A guy who's obsessing over you doesn't just say whatever anymore. He thinks before he talks. He worries if what he said was stupid, not because he's being fake, but because you've become someone he really doesn't want to mess up with. Most women think when a guy gets awkward, he's not interested. But watch what else is happening when he's being awkward. Is he still trying to talk to you? Is he sticking around even when the conversation gets weird? Does he keep coming back even after he says something he thinks was dumb? Because that's not someone who doesn't care. That's someone who cares so much it's throwing him off his game. Think about it. When something doesn't matter to you, you're relaxed around it. When something really matters, you get in your head about it. So when a guy goes from being totally smooth to being kind of awkward around you, that's not him losing interest. That's him wanting you way more than he knows how to handle. And here's the thing most women miss about this awkwardness. It comes and goes. One conversation he'll be totally normal, the next he'll seem off. That inconsistency is the key. Because when a guy is obsessing, some days he can keep it together and some days you just throw him off completely. Pay attention to those moments when he seems like he's trying harder than usual or when he looks at you and forgets what he was saying. Those moments are him losing the battle with keeping his feelings under control. The second sign he's obsessing over you is he starts acting totally different when other guys are around you. Guys have this thing where they don't really care what other guys do when it comes to random women. But here's what happens when a guy is obsessing over you. Other guys stop being random. They become people he's watching, people he's aware of, people who bother him even when nothing's actually happening. Watch what goes down when you're talking to another guy and he's nearby. Does his whole energy shift? Does he suddenly join the conversation when he wasn't part of it? Does he find reasons to stand closer or insert himself somehow? Does he get quieter, but you can tell he's paying attention? That's not him being controlling. That's him obsessing over you in a way that makes other guys feel like a threat. Here's what guys won't tell you. When they're just casually into someone, other guys don't register. They don't care. But when they're obsessing, when you're becoming this person they think about constantly, seeing you with other guys does something to them. It bothers them. They can't help it. So you'll notice him suddenly being more present when guys are around. Or making jokes that feel like he's marking territory. Or just acting weird in a way that's obvious something's going on. That's you mattering to him in a way that's making him react to stuff he'd normally ignore completely. And the crazier part is, he probably doesn't even like that he's acting this way. He knows it's obvious. He knows he should be cool about it. But he can't help himself because you've gotten that far into his head. The third sign is he brings you up in conversations that have nothing to do with you, not in an obvious way where he's always talking about you, but in this subtle way where you keep coming up. He'll be talking to his friends and your name drops in. He'll tell a story and somehow you're part of it. He'll see something random and it reminds him of you, so he mentions it. Here's what's happening. When someone isn't really on your mind, you don't mention them unless it's relevant. But when someone is obsessing over you, their brain makes everything connect back to you. So stuff that has nothing to do with you suddenly does, because that's how much space you're taking up in his thoughts. A guy who's obsessing over you will randomly bring you up because his brain is thinking about you so much that it finds ways to loop you into everything. And he doesn't even realize he's doing it. His friends probably notice before he... You know what's funny about this one? Sometimes his friends will tell you about it before you even notice it yourself. They'll make some comment about how he talks about you all the time, and you're confused because he doesn't seem to mention you that much when you're around. That's because when you're there, he's trying to play it cool. But when you're not there, you're all he talks about. That difference tells you everything. The fourth sign he's obsessing over you is he starts caring about stuff in your life that normally guys wouldn't care about. Not big stuff, small, random stuff, your work drama, your annoying roommate, that thing you're stressed about that isn't even a big deal. Watch how he reacts when you talk about day-to-day stuff in your life. Does he ask questions about it later? Does he actually remember the details? Does he seem genuinely interested in things that most people would just nod along to? Here's what's going on. When you're not that into someone, their daily life is background noise. You listen to be polite, but you don't really care. But when you're obsessing over someone someone, you want to know everything. Their world becomes interesting just because it's their world. So a guy who's obsessing over you will find himself actually caring about stuff he'd normally tune out. He'll remember your coworker's name. He'll ask how that annoying thing turned out. He'll bring up something you mentioned a week ago like it matters. Because to him, it does matter. Not because the thing itself is important, but because it's part of your life, and your life has become important to him. And watch how he remembers these details. It's not like he's taking notes or trying to impress you. He just remembers, naturally. Because when you're obsessing over someone, your brain holds on to everything they say. So when he brings up that random thing about your sister's birthday, or asks about your car that was making that weird noise, that's not him trying to score points. That's his brain cataloging your life because you matter that much to him. The fifth sign is he starts planning things around you without making it obvious. Not huge plans like trips or serious stuff, just regular plans. Listen to how he talks about what he's doing next week, next month, whatever. Does he check if you're free before making other plans? Does he mention things he wants to do and just assume you'll be there? Does he avoid committing to stuff until he knows what you're doing? Here's what guys won't say. They don't plan around people they're not serious about, even just small everyday plans. Because planning around someone means they matter. It means you're thinking ahead with them in your life. And guys avoid that with people they're keeping casual. But when a guy is obsessing over you, planning stuff with why, our in mind feels normal. He's not trying to lock you down. He just can't picture his plans without considering you. And that's happening because his brain has already decided you're part of his life going forward, even if he hasn't said it. You'll notice this in little ways. He'll say things like, I was thinking about going to that thing next month, and then pause to see if you're interested. Or he'll mention his friend's party in 2 weeks and automatically include you in the plan. Or he'll hold off on buying tickets to something until he knows if you want to go. These aren't big romantic gestures. They're just him naturally building his life around you being in it. The sixth sign he's obsessing over you is he starts copying things you do without realizing it. Watch how he acts over time. Does he start using words or phrases you use? Does he get interested in things you like? Does he pick up little habits or ways of doing things that are clearly from you? This isn't him trying to be like you. This is his brain automatically absorbing stuff from you because you're important enough that his mind is paying that much attention. Here's what's happening underneath. When someone isn't significant to you, you don't pick up their mannerisms or interests. But when you're obsessing over someone, your brain starts mirroring them. It's automatic. So a guy who's obsessing over you will start saying things the way you say them. He'll try things you like just because you like them. He'll adopt little quirks without even knowing it. And if you point it out, he'll probably be surprised because he had no idea he was doing it. That's how deep in his head you are. Sometimes this shows up in the weirdest ways. Maybe you always order a specific drink and suddenly he's ordering it too. Or you have a certain way of describing things and he starts using those exact descriptions. Or you mentioned loving some random thing and next time you see him, he's tried it. He's not consciously copying you. His brain is just so focused on you that it's absorbing everything about you like a sponge. The seventh sign is he gets genuinely bothered when you're upset about something, not just sympathetic, actually bothered. Like your bad mood affects his mood. You mention something that went wrong and you can see it actually gets to him. You're stressed and he seems stressed until you feel better. You're upset about something and he can't just let it go. When a guy starts obsessing over you, your feelings become connected to his feelings. Your problems become his problems. Not because he decided to care, but because his brain has linked your well-being to his well-being. So when something's wrong with you, something feels wrong to him. Most women think this is just a guy being nice. But being nice is saying that sucks. And being supportive. This is different. This is him being genuinely unable to feel okay when you're not okay. That kind of emotional connection doesn't happen with casual interest. That's obsession showing up as actual emotional investment. And you can tell the difference between a guy who's just being polite and a guy who's actually bothered. The guy who's just being nice will listen and say the right things, but then move on. The guy who's obsessing will bring it up later. He'll check if you're feeling better. He'll seem almost relieved when you tell him things worked out. Your emotional state genuinely affects his emotional state, and that's not something you can fake or force. It just is. The eighth sign he's obsessing over you is he contacts you at weird random times just because, not always planning it out, not just texting at normal times, but reaching out at random moments because something made him think of you or he just felt like talking to you. Early morning, late at night, middle of the day, no real reason, just wanted to talk to you. Here's what's going on. When you're not obsessing over someone, you text them when it makes sense, when you have plans to make or something to say. But when someone is constantly on your mind, you reach out randomly because they're just always there in your thoughts. So a guy who's obsessing over you will text you at weird times with random stuff, send you something that reminded him of you, message you late at night just to talk. Not because he's planning these moments, but because you're on his mind so much that reaching out feels natural whenever. And those random contacts are actually more telling than the planned ones because they show you're just living in his head all the time. Pay attention to what these random messages say too. They're usually not about anything important, just random thoughts, funny things he saw, questions that don't really matter. That randomness is the point. He's not texting because he needs something. He's texting because you popped into his head and his first instinct was to reach out to you. That instinct only happens when someone is genuinely obsessing. Let me show you what happens when you actually understand these 8 signs. Think about a woman who thought a guy wasn't that into her because he seemed nervous and awkward sometimes. She almost wrote him off, but then she noticed he was doing all of these things, getting weird when other guys were around, mentioning her to everyone, asking about tiny details in her life. He wasn't pulling away, he was obsessing and didn't know how to handle it. Or think about another woman who couldn't figure out if this guy was serious. But she started noticing he was planning everything around her schedule. He'd picked up phrases she used. He got genuinely upset when she was having a bad day. When she realized what that meant, everything clicked. Understanding these signs doesn't just help you figure out if a guy wants you. It helps you see what's actually happening versus what you think should be happening. Because here's the truth, guys obsessing over you rarely looks like movies. And dating advice say it should. It looks messier, more confusing, more real. And if you're waiting for perfect obvious signs, you're going to miss the real ones that actually tell you something. So here's what you do with this. First, pay attention to how he's acting different, not how consistent he is. The guy who's obsessing over you isn't going to act the same the whole time. He's going to act different as his feelings get stronger. Those changes are what matter. Watch for the shift from comfortable to awkward, from casual to careful, from now to future. Second, trust the small random stuff over the big planned stuff. Big gestures are easy to do. Getting awkward because he cares isn't. Being genuinely affected by your mood isn't. Randomly texting you at midnight isn't. The small unconscious things tell you way more than the intentional ones. Third, look for the stuff he's not choosing to do. Anyone can decide. To take you on a nice date. Not everyone can control whether they get weird around other guys, whether they start talking like you, whether your problems actually bother them. The signs that matter are the ones he's not trying to show you. They're the ones that leak out because what he's feeling is real. Fourth, notice what's happening with other people and his future. Guys protect those things. When you start affecting how he acts around other guys, when you start showing up in his plans without him even thinking about it, that's not casual. That's real. Pay attention to whether you're becoming part of his actual life, not just someone he hangs out with sometimes. Fifth, watch what bothers him. A guy who's not obsessing won't be bothered by much. Your stress is your problem. Other guys are whatever. But a guy who's obsessing over you will be bothered by things that affect you and things that involve other guys. That emotional reaction isn't something he can fake. It's either real or it's not there. Sixth, stop comparing what he's doing to what you think wanting someone should look like, and start comparing it to how he is with everyone else. Does he get awkward with you but confident with others? Does he remember stuff you said but forget what other people tell him? Is he planning around your schedule but not anyone else's? The difference in how he treats you versus everyone else is the real sign. Seventh, pay attention to the timing of everything. When does he reach out? When does he get weird? When does he bring you up? The random, unplanned moments tell you more than the predictable ones, because the unplanned moments are when his real feelings leak out before he has time to control them. Eighth, Watch how his behavior changes in different settings. Is he different when you're alone versus in a group? Is he different in person versus over text? Those differences show you where he feels safe showing his feelings.